Hello students, this is Dr. M. Bhushanam, Assistant Professor in Zoology, Maharani Science College for Women, Bengaluru. Hope all of you are doing well during this pandemic time. Take care of your health. Well, in today's session, we are going to learn another topic of organic evolution, that is, under morphological and comparative anatomical evidences of organic evolution, the concept of homologous structures or homologous organs. The objective of today's session is to study the role of homologous organs as the morphological and anatomical evidences in the process of organic evolution. The content includes, under the concept of evidences of organic evolution, the type is anatomical evidences, under that homologous structures. As we know, evolution refers to gradual changes in the traits of organisms in due course of time. These changes are seen at genetic level and they are inheritable into most highly reproducing individuals selected by the nature. It takes millions of years of time for this change to happen in it. It is believed that the ancestral form of mammals, which had primitive characters in them, lived millions of years back. Among these mammalian ancestral forms, few started to move to different environments, and they survived there for a better adaptability, and they continued a very sustained life or a happy life in those environments. Few ancestral forms started to move to the trees, and they started flying from one tree to another. Few ancestral forms, example for that is bat. So they started living the aerial mode of life. So the same ancestral forms, few started moving to the trees and started living there. So arboreal form of life, what the squirrels show. Few started to move into the waters, and there they started living their happy life, and examples are whales and dolphins. Few ancestral forms of these mammals started to move into the land burrows to have fossorial mode of life or burrowing mode of life. Few started to enter into, example for it is mongoose. Few started to move onto the forest lands where they started to graze upon the grass and started running on the land. So when you look at all these groups of organisms, one thing that we will have to remember here is that a common ancestral form of mammal with a basic body plan which they had earlier, started to move to different environments and live there with the adaptive characters or adaptive changes at different environments. So, the lifestyle of these organisms varies as they encounter different environmental conditions. To understand this concept, examples we shall consider. We know that cetacean vertebrate organisms includes whales and dolphins, and these organisms started to move into the water, and the kind of life that they need to show in the water or aquatic environment is locomotion through the forelimbs. So forelimbs are nothing but the frontal limb structures. So these paired forelimbs are totally changed into or modified into the structures called as flippers. So flippers are the locomotory organs for the dolphins as well as whales. Whereas which comes under the mammalian group, okay. Few ancestral forms of these mammals started to move onto the trees to trees. Example is bats. So bats started to fly using the forelimbs as the modified structures called as patagia are the wings. And the deer varieties, when we look at, they started to run on the land by using their forelimbs. So likewise, here all these vertebrate mammals have got the common origin. That's the reason why the central organism, what is represented in the left part of the picture here, showing the ancestral form of the mammal, from which the varieties of organisms, so varied group of divergent group of organisms are getting formed to different environments. So when we look at, all the vertebrate mammals are originated from a common mammalian ancestor. As they entered into different lifestyles and environments, they had modified forelimbs to suit for that environment. But an interesting fact here is, even though the forelimbs are used as different structures or different environments, such as wings in bat, then flippers in whales, then forelimbs for running in case of the deer, etc., the function is different. But when we look at their basic anatomical details, that is internal organization of the forelimb structure, when we look at, it remains same or similar. So that is, a forelimb of ancestral mammal had the common basic structure is, when we look at our arm, the upper arm portion, we call it as humerus part. So internally the upper arm is supported by means of a single bone called humerus. Then comes the forearm. So this forearm part is made up of two bones, namely radius and ulna. The next part we have is, this portion technically is called with the name manus. So manus consists of two parts, the upper wrist part. So this joint part is called wrist, and lower part we call it as palm or the hand. So wrist part is made up of carpals, whereas the palm portion is made up of metacarpals, and attached to it is 5 fingers, we call it as phalangeal bones. So all the ancestral forms of the mammals as well as mammals of different environments, forelimbs, if we consider, internal organization of the bones remains same. The arrangement of bones of forelimbs of this vertebrate is generally of the type called as pentadactylous limbs. penta means 5, dactylus refers to digits. So we have 5-digit kind of forelimbs, all the vertebrates for that matter. So slight variations they show according to the environment in later stage, but the basic plan remains same. Right towards the right side of the slide down, you can see that pictorial representation of this pentadactylus limb structure. So upper arm portion is made up of single bone called humerus. Then lower arm or forearm is made up of 2 bones called as the radius and ulna. Down is the carpals, then comes metacarpals, then comes the phalanges. So this arrangement remains common for all the vertebrates as what we have named just now. So this arrangement of pentadactyl limb is common in all these mammals such as whales, dolphin, bat, then squirrel, deer, horse, including man. That is, anatomically, the internal organization of the bones or the plan of anatomy remains same or similar. But to appear outside, that is morphologically, they appear as different structures, different organs. For example, they appear as flippers in case of whale or dolphins. When you look at the diagram above towards the right side, the third diagram, from left is the flipper of a dolphin or a whale. Then when you look at wings or patagia of bat, the last diagram above, it remains same. Then forelegs of deer and hands or forelimbs of man, as what you see in the first diagram, they all remain same. The internal bone structure or organization remains same. So upper part made up of 1 bone called humerus, lower part of the arm is made up of forearm is made up of 2 bones called radius, ulna, and manus portion consists of wrist and carpals, metacarpal wrist consisting of carpals, then comes the palm or the hand made up of metacarpals and phalanges of 5. So this configuration remains same. You can see that in the pictorial representation here. So structures are different to appear, but internally the bone organization remains same. So they're all developing from a common ancestor. Hope the concept is clear now. So a common ancestor forms similar structures that showed dissimilar or diverse functions of organ structures. They are called commonly as homologous structures or homologous organs. So what are homologous organs? In simple, from a common ancestor, diverse or different species of organisms originates. So from common ancestor, many organisms gets formed. So many species are getting formed. So this we call it as divergent evolution. Down in the picture, when you look at the pictorial representation of divergent evolution, here one single ancestral form of mammal is giving rise to different forms. So those different forms are obtained from a common ancestor, hence it is also called as monophylogenetic or genetic evolution. So mono means single, phylogen refers to here ancestor. So evolution of different species is from a single ancestral organism, hence it is called monophyletic evolution. Remember, the term homo means similar or same. Logous means study. So homologous means study of similar structures. So this is about the importance of the homologous organs, which are related to divergent evolution, and even refers to the concept of monophyletic evolution. Well, students, so what is the term homology refers to? It refers to origin of structures or organs from a common ancestor which will differ in their function. I repeat, origin of or formation of structures from a common ancestor. So they show structurally the organization similar but differs in their function. Or in simple terms, we can say that organs with similar structural organization and origin but differs with the functions. These structures are called as homologous structures or organs. They originate from a common ancestor. So it is due to two important concepts. Number one, natural selection and genetic drift concept. So down when you look at the picture, it represents internal organization remains same. So bones of all the vertebrates are formed from the mesoderm origin. So from the embryonic origin point of view, so they're all obtained from the mesoderm group only. The structural similarities are also seen. Every organisms of the vertebrates that we have mentioned here, excuse me, consists of upper arm made up of single bone called humerus. Forearm or lower arm is made up of two bones, namely radius and ulna. Wrist bones called carpals. Palm bones called as metacarpals. And digital bones we call them as digit bones we call them as the phalanges. So pentadactylous limb structure remains same. So here is a pictorial representation of homologous structures. So dolphins have flippers, but internal organization of bones remains same. Bat, Patagia, it also shows the internal organization same. So brown color extended structures down refers to the fingers, over which the skin gets extended. Of a dog or a deer, it appears to be shown. And of a man, similar structures. So this is how homologous structures are seen in the forelimb of all the vertebrate organisms. This concept of homology was introduced by the scientist Richard Owen. He explains that homologous organs lead into diversification of species or speciation. Hence, the homologous organs leads into divergent evolution. So one common ancestor forms many types of species of organisms but showing the similar basic structure. So structural organization remains same but of functions varies. So different species are formed. Here the morphological variations are seen among the homologous organs with the heritable genetic changes. So this is what Richard Owen says about. So common ancestor forms very species of organisms which are morphologically different but anatomically remains same. Such organs are called as homologous organs. And why these homologous organs are formed? They have genetical changes in them which are inheritable. Down in this slide is the image of vertebral column of different vertebrate classes. The basic plan of vertebral column of all vertebrates, when we look at it, looks similar. The homologous organs even though show morphological or outward differences, they tend to show genetical matchups or matchings. Hence, they are closely related as they show same embryonic origin. In simple words to say, since a common ancestor forms different species, they are closely related. Species are closely related because the genetic makeup almost resembles same. Understand homologous organs are the organs with similar structure but different functions. Their origin is also same from a common ancestor, leading into divergent evolution that we have learned earlier. Examples for this is internal organization or bones of wings of bat and birds remain same with the structural organization. So bones of birds, bones of bat, they both have similar structures, but they differ in their function. That is, wing of bird leads to the process of flying, no doubt, but the fly is of a short distance. If it's of a long distance, the arrangement itself is different, and that we find in birds. Similarly, we have with brain structure, heart structure of the vertebrates, and mouth pads on the legs of insects. So down is the picture when we look at. This picture shows one extinct form of representative and an aquatic group. So we have 5 classes of vertebrates, as you all know. Number 1, Pisces, 2, Amphibia, 3, Reptilia, 4, Avia, 5, Mammalia. Of the 5 classes, the Piscean class, when we look at, there are no explanative examples from the living orders of fishes that we have today. But we have fossil forms as the ancient fishes which are extinct now. Not even a single examples of those forms as representatives we can find. Such organism representation we have for crossopterygians. So there you have one example. So crossopterygian fins or forelimb structures, when we look at, it showed a humerus bone, 2 radius ulna bone, then wrist bones, then phalangeal bones, etc. Except for that fish, rest of all the class, amphibians shows 1 humerus, 2 bones of lower arm called radius ulna, they have wrist bones, then they have palm bones, they have digit bones. Same thing with a reptile, same thing with a mammal like rabbit, same thing with a bird. So everywhere, including the ancient fish, belong to crossopterygians. The homologous organs are found in the organisms, especially related to forelimb of the vertebrate class of organisms. Students, remember here, we don't have examples of, living examples for the forelimb modification in fishes. So aquatic vertebrates are generally avoided here. Okay, so we directly go for the 4 class of tetrapods, okay, which comes under terrestrial forms predominantly. Well, the other examples related to homologous structures are structures of the heart of vertebrates. So some have 2 chambered, some have 3 chambered, some are 4 chambered. So this various functions of these structures and organization also shows certain of changes in them. All they are the examples of your homologous organs. Similarly, we have legs of the insects, the mouth parts of the insects are the best examples for the process of homologous organs, and it also includes the examples of the brain. When we look at the types of homology, there are three main types of homology. Number one, phylogenetic homology. Number two, sexual homology. Number three, serial homology. First type is phylogenetic homology. It refers to homology with phylogeny or similarities between different species of animals and plants in an environment. We find similar structures but in different organisms of plants and animals in a given environment. Such organs are called as phylogenetic homological organs. Example is forelimb of the vertebrates, then mouth parts of insects which are related to your present syllabus. Second type what we have is related to sexual homology. In this type, similarities relates to two different individuals of two sexes in the same species of organisms. Best example is testes of males and ovaries of females are developed from same embryonic tissue of mesoderm. So we find homology with reference to two different sexes of the same group. The third, so testes of males and ovaries of females are developed from the same embryonic tissue. Then third type we have a serial homology type. Here the similarities of different organs present in the same organism is seen. When we look at the example here, it refers to the biramous appendages of the prawn. Prawn shows the appendages like antennule, antenna, mandible, first maxilla, second maxilla, third maxilla, first and second maxilla, first maxillipede, second maxillipede, third maxillipede. Then chelate legs, non-chelate legs, then we have swimmerets, then we have uropods. All this you have studied in your lower classes. So when we look at here, all these groups of organisms have the basic structure for the appendage. So it is biramous, I mean to say it is splitted into two at free end. So we have an exopodite and an endopodite. Both are attached down with the help of a protopodite. So protopodite will attach to the body of the animal. So they are present in pairs at ventrolateral position in every segment. So 19th segment shows the presence of the appendages right from antenna to uropod. So all these appendages doesn't remain same with the function. Each of the appendage does this different function, but every appendage here will have presence of a protopodite. Upper is exopodite, endopodite structure. Slight modification can be attached to it. So this kind of appendages present in the body of an organism is referring to serial homology. Serial means one after the other. All the 19 pairs of appendages are modified to perform different functions. Scientists have explained that the adaptive radiation is the basic principle of homology. What does it mean exactly? As you all know that adaptive radiation or adaptive evolution refers to the evolutionary changes in an organism that helps the animal to better suit or fit to its new environmental habitats. It refers to the changes due to the lifestyle of an organism. So, forelimb of all vertebrates show a basic body plan of pentadactyl limb, but it is modified in different organisms due to their life pattern that leads to the divergence of species. So, down in the picture when we look at the point of start refers to the common ancestor form of the vertebrates. It has led to different groups of vertebrates. So, single ancestor is forming many species, which we call it as divergent evolution. We also call it as monophyletic phylogenic evolution, which means from a single common ancestor, different species of organisms are formed. So, divergent evolution, monophyletic evolution it is of. So, the definition of homologous organs, when we look at, these are the organs that have similar structure and origin, but they vary in their functions. They show a common ancestor, they show even different species formation, which we call it as divergent evolution. In your syllabus, you have two examples to study under homologous organs. Number one, four limbs of vertebrates, where we generally avoid the aquatic vertebrates because present aquatic vertebrates belonging to Piscean group do not have the structure called as the flippers, but the aquatic mammals like whales and dolphins have it, showing the internal organization similar with that of the tetrapodian vertebrates. But we have extinct form of the crossopterygian fish varieties that shows the similar pattern. What is the structural similar organization here? They should show similarities with the bones. Whether we take forelimb of a bat or of a dog or of a whale or of a man, they show similar pattern. What is that pattern? Single bone in the upper arm called humerus, two bones in the lower arm called as the radius and ulna. Then comes the bones of the wrist, the bones of the palm called carpals and metacarpals, attached to which are 5 digits referred as pentadactylous limb. But these limbs, four limbs, are modified in each of the vertebrate class. When we look at the bones, they act as the endoskeleton. They are the structures which are present inside the body, but they give hard frame structure for protection of the organs. So, what is endoskeleton? Supporting framework to maintain the body shape and protection of internal organs. So, this endoskeleton shows generally at its forelimb portion, the front limbs, they show pentadactylous limbs of all vertebrates commonly. So, it remains same with the basic structure or fundamental plan. But where is the variation? Modification is to suit to the mode of life what they live in. If there is change in the character, it forms a different species of organism. When you look at the flippers used for swimming in case of the whales or dolphins, here we don't have a Piscean representation, but we have a mammalian representation. Flippers are modified forelimbs present in mammalian vertebrates, aquatic vertebrates, of course, like dolphins and whales. So forelimbs of flippers are used for swimming in water. Forelimbs of frogs are used for jumping or hopping and swimming. The forelimbs of lizard are used for walking or crawling. Forelimbs of bats are used for bats and birds are used for flight. And forelimbs of man are used for writing, eating, grasping things, etc. So when you look at all the forelimbs of different vertebrate classes, they show different functions. Morphologically, the structures are different. But when you remove the the external structures, leaving only the bone part, so bones of these forelimbs of all these vertebrate classes, it resembles same. How? It shows the presence of single bone in the humerus, upper arm, two bones in the lower arm, then manus containing wrist showing carpals, then palm showing the metacarpals, and the digits showing the phalanges. So this arrangement remains common. Reason is that this similar structure anatomy shows that they're all originated from a common ancestor. So forelimbs of all these vertebrate classes, where you find the anatomical details similar, called homologous organs. So again and again, when we repeat this concept, you will have to remember that this is how is the basic body plan of forelimbs in all the vertebrate classes. So as I told you, how is the basic forelimb pattern? The plan is showing a typical forelimb plan is single upper bone called humerus, two bones called radius ulna in forearm, manus containing carpals at wrist portion, metacarpals at palm portion, phalanges in the digit portion. So pentadactylous limbs are present. This is how the arrangement is, what you see in the picture down. So all the vertebrate classes shows anatomically the bone arrangement of forelimbs same. So homology always supports the common ancestral features in the organisms. It reveals, which forms best comparative anatomical evidences of organic evolution. When we compare the anatomical details of the bones of forelimbs, it remains same. It's the best evidence to say that the organic evolution has taken place. When we look at the forelimb of a crossopterygian fish, which is Eusthenopteran, an extinct form of fish. So we don't have living examples of fishes to say that the forelimb arrangement of bones is so, but we have related to the extinct forms. In this fish varieties, the common ancestor has given rise to the presence of humerus bone, radius ulna bone in the upper arm and lower arm respectively. Then in the hand region or manus region, it has wrist bones called carpal, metacarpals of palm region, and digit bones called phalanges. So this arrangement is same. We call, hence it is monophyletic origin. One common ancestor of vertebrates has given rise to them. And we also call it as divergent evolution, because different species of organisms the ancestor has given rise to in the due course of time. So monophyletic origin. So down in the picture we can see those fish varieties and their forelimb structures, and extreme right is the monophyletic evolution tree representation of it then. So monophyletic evolution is the first concept. Second concept is they have basic structural details. What are the basic structural details of a pentadactylus limb? Upper arm having single bone called humerus. Middle portion or the forearm having two bones called radio-ulnar bone. Lower part containing the hand consists of bones of carpals at the wrist region, metacarpals at palm region, phalanges at the digit region. So this complete bone structure is covered over by muscles, blood vessels, nerves and skin. So this arrangement remains almost similar with the rest of the vertebrates also. We call it as pentadactylus limb. It is common. Then where is the adaptive change? Change is with reference to the functions. We know the forelimbs of these ancestral forms of fishes were short and stout, expanded, adapted for swimming movement in the water. So they'll need to propel the water inside. So thereby the structures are modified, but internal organization of bones remains same. These forms of fishes will also use their forelimbs for moving on the land. We call it as walking on the land by using these forelimbs. So they have thick fin structures. So the ancestral fish of this variety of Crossopterygian lived life of both in water as well as on the land. So when it is in the water, they use the same forelimb for swimming movement. When they come out of the water on the land, they used it for the walking. So amphibious mode of life they led. So the structure does different functions in the variety of Crossopterygians. The arrangement is single bone of humerus, radio-ulnar bones in the lower arm, and palm bones contains 6 to 8 carpals, 5 metacarpals, 5 phalanges. Why I am specifying this number is, this number slowly varies, especially in the hand, that is wrist and the palm region, there it varies. But the upper arm and lower arm portion, when we look at it, remains same, indicating that they are all evolved from a common ancestor, leading to divergent evolution. So this is the adaptive radiation and the evolutionary significance related to Piscean class, the aquatic organisms. Coming on to the terrestrial organisms, the tetrapods. Here, the first organism starts with the class Amphibia is the frog. So forelimb of frog, when we look at, they do originate from the common ancestor, hence we call it as monophyletic origin. It shows a single humerus in the upper arm, 2 bones of radio-ulnar, but these 2 bones are fused. Then comes the wrist bones, then comes the palm bones, then comes the phalangeal bones. When we look at the structure, the upper arm has humerus bone, middle structure has radio-ulnar bone, but it is fused condition. So the hand region, when we look at, it consists of 6 carpals, then 5 metacarpals, 5 phalanges. There we had 6 to 8, the earlier case, but here it is restricted to 6 only. The arrangement outside these bones, when we look at, it has muscles, it has blood vessels, it has nerves, it has skin, showing the limb arrangement. pentadactylous in nature. So, evolutionary significances, structure-wise it remains same. That's what the upper part we had seen. Evolutionary significance part shows how it is adapted to a newer environment, showing different functions, different lifestyle. Forelimbs are short and stout, adapted for hopping or jumping on the land, swimming in the water. So, amphibious mode of life, the animal leads, accordingly the organs are modified. But internal organization of the bones, arrangement remains same. When we look at the digits, the 5 digits, externally, this digits in case of males is modified to have adhesive pads. So, you have at the tip swollen structures called adhesive pads. It was to hold the female during the process of copulation or amplexus phenomenon. They all have the common origin from an ancestor, leading to divergent evolution. So, it is monophyletic evolution, it is divergent evolution, it is shows difference in functions, but structure-wise they remain same. Called it as homologous organs. The next example we have is of Reptilia. Example of Reptilia is lizard. So, forelimb of lizard, when we look at, it is also originated from a common ancestor, hence we call it as monophyletic origin. So, it is a repetition concept you will have to remember, students. Arrangement of bones, when we look at, it has single upper humerus bone, lower arm consisting of radio-ulnar bones. Then the palm region consists of 8 carpals at wrist region, 5 metacarpals at palm region, 5 phalangeal bones. The number of carpals varies here. Then these bones are surrounded by muscles, blood vessels, nerves, skin to have the limb structure, pentadactylous limb structure. So, structure wise it remains same. Where is the change then? That shows the adaptive character. Digits ends with the claws. The tip of the digits will end with the claw structures. Then the inner palmar region has the infolded skin. So, paper-like structures are seen. It is to attach the animal firmly onto the walls for the movement so that it will not fall down. So, that's the advantage, that is the modification that the organism possesses in the forelimbs. They show short, stout forelimbs for a fast running or crawling movements. But the arrangement of bones remains same. They originate from common ancestor, hence shows divergent evolution. Coming on to the next class of vertebrates is the birds, the aves. In aves also, they originate from a common ancestor of vertebrates, so it is monophyletic origin. When you look at the skeleton structure down, they show humerus part, radio-ulnar part, then number of carpals, metacarpals, phalanges slowly varies. That's what we will have to remember in case of the forelimb of bird. So, it is modified as wing structure. Even though it is a wing, internally the bone structure remains same. So, it is monophyletic origin. So, the forelimb or the wing structure, when we look at, it has internally single upper bone of humerus, then lower arm consisting of radio-ulnar bone, and this radio-ulnar bones are separated with a wider gap in between. Coming on to the carpal number, it is 3, metacarpal number is 3, phalanges are also 3. So, the number of carpals, metacarpals and phalanges got reduced to 3 numbers. And they are covered over by special kind of flight muscles which assist the animal to exhibit the flight. So, it is also related to the attachment of blood vessels, nerves and skin, showing pentadactylus structure only. So it's a modification of pentadactylus structure where the bones are fused and reduced in number. It is not that only 3 bones are metacarpals, carpals and phalanges. They are fused bones actually to say. The evolutionary significance is, we know forelimb of bird is modified for as wings for flight. So digits are fused at distal ends. Then all bones here in case of birds are pneumatic bones, bones filled with the air spaces. The skin is covered over by the feathers. These are additional features for the organism to modify itself or to adapt itself to an environment for flight. Then they show long stout fused limbs used for the flight mechanism. They evolved from a common ancestor. Hence, they show monophyletic origin. They show divergent evolution or homologous organs. So, internal structural organization of bones, when we look at, it remains similar to that of the rest of vertebrate group of animals also, that you can find down in the picture. Coming on to the last example of forelimb is man, the mammalian representation. In man, the arrangement of bones of forelimb remains same, indicating they are originated from a common ancestor of monophyletic origin. How are they? So, basic forelimb structure shows an upper single bone of humerus, followed by 2 bones called radio-ulnar bones, followed by 8 carpal bones of wrist bones, then 5 metacarpal bones and 5 phalangeal bones. So, this structural organization remains same. Then these limbs are covered over by muscles, blood vessels, nerves and the skin, showing pentadactylus limbs. We have long, stout forelimbs used for grasping of things, holding of things. It is set free from that of locomotion in adults. So, we have bipedal locomotion, only legs are used, hind limbs are used for the movement. We are all obtained from the common ancestor. So, it is leading to divergent evolution and monophyletic origin. So, this is the diagram which represents anatomically the tetrapods of the class Amphibia, representative is frog, Reptilia, representative is lizard, Avia, representative is Columbia or pigeon, and Mammalia is human. In all the vertebrate tetrapodan class, we find presence of this structure of bone arrangement remains same with that of the basic plan of vertebrate forelimb which we find in the ancestral forms. So, it indicates that comparatively the anatomical details of the bone arrangement remain same. So, homo refers to similar or structures. Okay. So, logos means study. Homologous refers to studying of similar structures. Structures remain same here anatomically. Okay. Basic structure with the origin, it remains same, but function of these structures of forelimbs differs in different organisms of classes. So, indicating that they are homologous organs. So, with this we are completing the first example related to homologous organs, that is forelimb of vertebrate classes. Please post your comments and queries to my personal WhatsApp number, students. Thank you. I will be continuing with the second example related to homologous organs in the next class.